Good afternoon, everybody. It's Wednesday. It's 8 p.m. And of course, a little bit late here, so my apologies here. Had to use the old laptop. It's like a dinosaur. But here it is, college football frenzy. Bill Furman is on vacation in beautiful Italy. We gave him a week off, but what better way to bring in Zach Harris, one of my good friends from the Fox Sports 980 AM. Zach, how you doing tonight?
Doing very good. We've been planning this for a long time, so I'm glad our schedules finally met up so we can do something together.
Definitely, definitely. We've been friends for about over a year now. When I first started network, I reached out to you. We talk once in a while, but finally we got you on the show, Zach. And what better way to start this off? College football's here, and it's one of my favorite times of the year, Zach.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite times of the year because the difference between college and NFL is these kids are just out there playing, having fun, and
Yes.
they're really looking to get to the next level. So you can see everything that they put in every single day, the blood, sweat, and tears. NFL, there's guys that love
Mm.
the game. There's guys that are like, hey, I'm just really talented. I'm going to go out there and make my money. So that's why I love college because it just seems more of the love of the game.
You know what? I'm glad you said that. A lot of people laugh at me when they say you watch more college than pro. Yeah, I do, because just like you said, Zach, you lose one game in college football, you're basically out of the BCS ride. You're done. Coaches know that. You lose one, you're once and done. But the players, it's an audition. They have fun, and it's an audition. I mean, they're putting on game field to get to the next level. The NFL, you have divas out there making $50 million a year and crying about that. I mean, these guys are, thank God for the NIL this year that they're getting money, Zach. But how do you feel about that, Zach, with the NIL?
So I like the NIL for the
Mm-hmm.
simple fact that, college football has made tons and tons of money off
Mm-hmm.
these kids. About time that these kids get a little something back. I think they introduced it a little too soon. I think they need to put more rules and regulations around
Mm-hmm.
it, and everybody's just going buck wild. Like the kid that went to USC, what was it, Jordan Addison? He left the
Mm.
one college to go to USC to get all that money, and stuff like that's going to happen all the time. We already knew backdoor shady stuff happened
Sure.
before, but now it's legal. Now it's like, all right, I'm a booster, but I own a car salesman lot. I'm going to have you the face of my car salesman lot as long as you go play for Texas. So now it's legal. It's kind of a little crazy out there.
It is very true. The Bill Furman, I'm a big St. Joe's Prep guy. My kids played at St. Joe's Prep here in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia.
Hmm.
And Bill sent me a thing. I really don't follow Ohio State because I'm a Notre Dame fan. But two of the players went there, of course, Marvin Harrison Jr., which NIL deals 1.7 million this year. Just for him, he deserved it. Great Heisman candidate. But Kyle McCord, Zach, he got $120,000 Mercedes AMG. It's just like you said, to be the face of Mercedes dealership in Ohio State. Insane.
That's what happens. It's basically legalizing these boosters to go out and recruit players. I think there needs to be a little more restriction on it. Not saying that these kids can't go out and make money, but
Hmm.
let's not have it a wild west free for all.
Yeah, I mean, only the richer get richer on this one. I mean, if you have a big booster, you can recruit anybody you want to. I mean, look at Colorado. Trey Hunter. I'm sorry. Yeah, $3.7 million, and I mean, Archie Manning got it, but at least I give him credit because his dad said you're not touching anything until you start one game first. But we all know that money's sitting in his back pocket already. Zach, we already know that.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And then some of these kids, they spread it along the team or they give to charity, which I
Sure.
think is awesome as well. And I don't think that gets as enough publicity.
Right, and there was one guy, I forgot what his name was, Zach. I did see that where, he got a little NIL deal, but he said, how about we give it back to like a respirator? Every time I score, how about we do that and make it a good, pay it forward to some reason. I mean, we see a lot of players, Sam Hartman from Notre Dame, he had a deal with Beat headsets, gave everybody on his team a pair of headsets as well. But
Yep.
I like to see it go toward, just like you said, with more clauses and more stipulations of what can be done, how it can be done, and what you have to do to get that. Because Zach, I've always been a believer. You go to college, you're blessed to go to college. There's many athletes and kids out there that can't afford it, can't do it. But when you go to
Mhm.
college, if you're on an NIL deal, at least go 3 years of school. I think that would be one of the things too, where if you do get a deal, at least write out your guaranteed your voyage there. At least go 3 years. Don't be a 1 year, a 2 year wonder. Going to the NFL. What do you think about that?
I don't think it's a bad idea. Maybe even you got to stay with a certain team for a certain amount of
Mm,
time. Like a lot of these guys are entering the transfer portal, and money plays a factor. Like I just previously said,
yeah.
leaving one college to go to another college to make more money. Also, with the charity thing, I love to see people give back, but
Hmm.
only if you have the means to do so. Some of these
Sure.
kids don't have the means to do so. So if you want to keep the money, that's fine with me. But I love when people are able to give back and they do give back.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I love the charity work. If you can, by all means, please do what you can do. But I like that what you just said about, at least writing out your guarantee at that college, because we know the transfer portal. Some, Clifford, Hartman in his sixth year here. I mean, you're looking for the best opportunity, of course. You want a roof over your head. You want good things in life. The money's there, of course. But at least if you do transfer once and you get a deal, I think you should write out your guaranteed sponsorship there with that college.
And I don't mean to pick on your college, Notre Dame there, but me and my
I
buddy
knew it was
were
coming. I knew it was coming, Zach. Go ahead.
me and my buddy were chatting, and I'm like, man, he's wearing the rib on the necklace after his surgery. I'm like, 6, 7 years of college. You sure he didn't do that surgery himself? He's got to be a doctor by now with all them years.
Yeah, it's funny. Like a lot of I do the Notre Dame show on Saturday, the Golden Dome podcast, and I had one of my friends actually call me. It's like, Paul, I didn't know he was a 6 year senior. I'm like, yeah, he graduated 4 years ago. He's like a doctorate of Notre Dame here. He's going to be a professor. But you're right. I mean, some of these players, it's just so weird. Like I look back at Zach, we're old school followers of football. We look at some of these players back in the day. What if they had an NIL deal? What would their value be? Looking
Oof.
back at some of these guys because I did read something about Reggie Bush before we get into college football here, who said, well, he was stripped of his Heisman Trophy winning, that there, but he was saying, well, I got a slap on the wrist. It wasn't a slap on the wrist. I lost my Heisman Trophy. I was
Yeah.
the best player for years in college. I'm the human highlight film. And just imagine what I would have got back in the day, how many sponsors I would have had, how many boosters at USC would have said, you know what, this is Reggie Bush's talent. This is Reggie Bush's year. Let's give you
Hmm.
the money. And he was like, it's not really fair. And I mean, I agree with it, but I'm just glad people are actually getting paid nowadays. I really am.
Absolutely, and I think they need to go ahead and give Reggie his Heisman back. One thing
Mm,
is, it was legal back then or illegal back then to get all this NIL deals, obviously, because
hmm.
California pushed everything in place. But
Yes, they
you
did.
know, the Heisman has nothing to do with what you're making off the field. It's not like, hey,
Right.
all right, some shady backdoor stuff happened. All of a
Hmm.
sudden, I'm going to run for 200 yards in a game. That's not how it works. It just doesn't work that
Very
way.
true.
So, stripping his Heisman was just asinine to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the Heisman is the best player in college football. We all know that. And regardless of what you do off field, this is not going to accumulate what you're doing. Reggie Bush was just a human highlight. I love watching him play. That team with Matt Leinart on there was. I'm still kind of pissed off about the Bush push. But I can put that past me. But Eileen's checking in. What's going on? Eileen's a big Notre Dame fan as well. Thank you for showing up, Eileen. Appreciate it. I need help here because Zach is a huge Bama fan, and he knows how I feel about Bama.
Yeah, you should feel pretty good about Bama because they lost to Texas, and a lot of people are asking, is Texas finally back?
You know what? Let's talk about that, Zach. I mean, I know you're a big, Alabama fan there. Alabama, the dynasty of what they had, the Saban years going back to, even McElroy days going back to that far. How do you feel about Alabama, and what did you see go wrong here? I mean, was the QBs? I mean, Milroy, Buckner. What is it with you guys this year?
So obviously, when you lose two big talents in the first round of the NFL draft, and Bryce
Hmm.
Young and Will Anderson, that's going to have a knock on your team. Also, I think ever since we lost some of our offensive coordinators, it's very hard to maintain when every year or every other year you're replacing an offensive or defensive coordinator. It's very hard to maintain the level of winning that Nick Saban has brought to Alabama. And I
True.
think there's something going on there where there's constantly an adjustment period where they got to lose one or they got to win a close one to kind of wake up, and they're expecting to just go in with all the talent that they have and say, hey, I'm going to win this game. Well, if anything showed anything last year when they played Texas, let's be honest, they probably should have lost that game. There
Mhm.
was a lot of flags in that game. They didn't deserve to win that game. And if it wasn't to an injury to Quinn Ewers in last year's game,
Sure.
they probably would have got wiped.
Yeah, I think he had 138 yards in the first quarter last year before the injury, and
Hmm.
I
Mhm.
mean, I don't want to say it was a blessing that he went down, but yeah, I mean, I agree. I think they should have lost that game last year. But you talk about the OC. I mean, bringing Tommy Reese in, what do you think about that? Because to me, Tommy Reese at Notre Dame had no identity. He didn't know what he wanted to do with the ball. He had Buckner, of course, which, hey, you guys got him now. To me, he's a more running quarterback. He hasn't thrown an arm at all. What do you see in Tommy Reese, and how can he flip this with Milroy and Buckner? What do you see?
I think he's a young, talented offensive coordinator that is, like you said, still trying to find himself, still trying to find his rhythm, who he wants to be as a play caller, how he wants to shape this offense and kind of get used to the pieces that he has. Now you got a
Mm-hmm.
mobile quarterback, and let's be honest, this quarterback's more talented than the ones that he had at Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you looked at the 2, 3 quarterbacks that played last year for Notre Dame, this is a more talented overall team. No offense, Paul, but
Oh, none taken. It's true.
so you got a more talented quarterback that is very mobile. He's got a strong arm, but the problems is he's not very accurate. And
Mm-hmm.
then at the same time, these wide receivers, while they're good wide receivers, they're not Amari Cooper. They're not Calvin Ridley. They're not the Alabama wide receiver you that we're used to.
Right.
I like Kobe Prentice. I like this guy. I like that guy, but none of them has really stuck out like a Jamison Williams did last year, or the
Sure.
Calvin Ridleys, or the Jerry Judys, or the Devonta Smith. So that's what they're
Yeah.
missing from that side of the ball. Love the run game. They need to use that run game a little more, and then hope that these wide receivers can get it in themselves to get a little open.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it just to me, Tommy Reese was the identity. I mean, he had Buckner last year, he had Drew Pine, but he really never showcased what they could do. They put him in positions to throw the ball, but Pine wasn't a thrower. Buckner, we know, is not a
Hmm.
thrower as well. He wanted to run the ball, but just like you said with Milroy down there, he has the weapons down there. Speaking of Tommy Reese, but you're right. The wide receiver, I call it Miami. I used to be, like had coined everybody a certain thing. Like Notre Dame to me is O line university, Bama is QB university plus wide receiver U. Now you don't have Waddle, you don't have all the receivers that you met.
Yep.
Just imagine if he had that, what would Tommy Reese do? But this is a year that he has to showcase what he's about because I don't know what his contract was this year, Zach, to go down there, but I don't know what he's going to show. I think he's going to rely on Milroy's legs a lot more, but they got to start running the ball because I don't see Milroy having a 300-yard game week to week like a Tua, a Jalen Hurts can do. I don't see that.
He's got the strong arm, so I definitely believe the arm talent's there. It's just
Hmm.
the accuracy issues. To see him turn the ball over twice to throw 2 interceptions,
Yes.
I'm surprised Nick Saban didn't rip him out right then and there. Because if you go back to the beginning with Greg
Oh, yes.
McElroy and AJ McCarron, it was
Hmm.
always take care of the football. You don't got to throw for 500 yards, but you don't throw 2 interceptions, and that was a big thing as well.
Hmm.
But that Texas defense was swarming. They were playing good, and I hate to be that overreactor, but this is no doubt a top 10 team, potentially a top 5 team if they continue to play the way that they played Alabama.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think on the offense and defense side of the ball, Ewers looked incredible out there. I mean, he managed the game. He took the shots where he had to. He didn't turn the ball over. And I'd say that wide receiver they have is Worthy. He is insane. It showed me something that Texas might be back on the map. And just think, I think they're coming to your neck of the woods, the SEC, in the next year, aren't they?
Yep, they're coming to SEC, so it's kind of like a little preview of
Hmm.
potential rivalry that could happen every couple of years. Hopefully more often than not. I would love to see these big guys play once every 2 years, not
Hmm.
once every 4 years. Like
Right.
Georgia, Bama, unless they're playing in the SEC title game, you get them every couple of years. I'd love to see these guys go at it once every 2 years at least.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think it's number one. It gives the fans what they want to see. Of course, I mean, that SEC is a NFL roster. I mean, from top to bottom, no team is disregarded in that division. There, I agree. I want to see it. I want to see if it's not every year. I mean, first I would love to see a home and away every other year. Every year, of course,
Yep.
but it's just so hard with the competition that they have there because we all know. Zach, you and I talked about this last year with Alabama being a two-loss team. Are they still out of it? No, they're still in it because there are Alabama with that strength of schedule, of course. But how do you think this loss goes in BCS minds right now? What do you think about that?
So the score indicates that they lost by 10.
Hmm.
They were in it. I mean, they got dominated, let's be honest, but they were in it to the very end. They had a chance to tie it up. Unfortunately, things did not work out in their favors. The turnovers didn't work out for them. It's still a young team trying to find its piece. You got the new quarterback, you got wide receivers replacing the old ones. So
Hmm.
there's a lot going against them. That being said, they have to shine throughout the rest of the season. So they got to win their games and they got to look pretty doing it.
True.
Ultimately, right now, if I were to say, are they going to make the playoffs? I would say no. That there's
Mm.
better teams, more worthy teams to make the playoffs. There's Georgia, there's Michigan, there's Texas. There's a lot of good teams that are going to be up there and make the playoffs.
The one team I didn't hear you mention was Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. You know what? Honestly, I love your head coach,
I do
and
too.
the one thing that scares me is that he's such a great recruiter, such a great player person. He's got
Hmm.
that player personnel personality, but Notre Dame, let's be honest, that isn't the greatest place for him because they want to
Yeah.
win, 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 win. And he's a young, smart, talented coach, still trying to find his ways. Yeah, he can get the right guys in there, but you got to win with the right guys. And I think last season there were some hectic plays. Granted, he was trying to play with two quarterbacks. When you have two quarterbacks, you
Hmm.
got none. But there were some plays that were mismanaged. This year, you get the well, we're going to call him the 10th year veteran at quarterback. And I think that tremendously makes a difference when you have a doctor playing quarterback for you. Basically, he's got 6 years of school going. So I think that's going to be all the difference. And they do have a shot. They don't have an easy schedule, but, if they get
Hmm.
there, they definitely deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Being a Notre Dame fan since knee high with my dad, always watching it on Saturday, and then Dallas on Sunday. That was our weekend thing, my dad and I. And it's exactly what you said. I mean, Marcus Freeman came into a situation where you're coming in at Notre Dame football. All you want is a national championship, and it's been since '88. Since we've had one. So he has a big test. I mean, he has the fundamentals to coach, but he is a big recruiter. The first year he came in, he had the second highest recruiting class in college football that year. As a rookie head coach coming in, even though he was the DC, he is a player coach. We understand that, but you're right. Sam Hartman being the 6th year, the doctor that we talked about, managing that offense. And what I love is, first year OC Gerard Parker coming in, he took the leash off Hartman. He's finally has a quarterback where they can take the leash off of him and let him
Yep.
go out. Just in Tommy Reed's situation, he doesn't know Milroy. He still has that learning playbook with them, terminology with them, new playbook, new scheme. But with
Yep.
Hartman, he's a doctor. You can go from page 1 to page 20 and say, you've seen it all. Go for it.
Absolutely. And that's the kind of guy that can, he can lead you on a 12 play, 7-minute drive,
Hmm.
or he can lead you on a 2 play, 2-minute drive. 2 plays and you're done. You're in the end zone. So I think
Hmm.
that's going to help this Notre Dame team. That's something that they've been missing for quite a few years. And
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I was tired of seeing Jack Cohn in there a couple of years ago. He was just. I didn't like him at Wisconsin. I wasn't going to like
Hmm.
him at Notre Dame. And I'm just like, this is not going to turn out well. They got all this expectation, and man, did it not work out well.
I tell you what, it's funny you mentioned that. When he came from Wisconsin and he was a stand-up quarterback, no movement at all, Zach, and he was just, he was worse than a Peyton Manning in the pocket with of course, not the arm, of course. But when he came to Notre Dame, I'm like, okay, you know what? They're going to put him in the pocket. They're going to let him throw the ball. Maybe we have a pocket quarterback that get the ball downfield, which he could, not very accurate. But Tommy Reese once again tried to get him on bootlegs outside, out of the pocket. Once
Mhm.
again, Tommy, you did not do your homework of who you have at quarterback here. And that's what I never understood about Tommy Reese. Never understood it. You every year, every college, we go every 2 years, we get new players. You guys get 5-star recruits. So it's a plug and play system. But to you guys, it's a little bit easier. But Notre Dame, Tommy, I don't know what you were doing. When he left, I said, good riddance. Go to Alabama. Go have fun because you have all the weapons. You have everything in your controls. Now it's up to you to show you what you can do as an OC.
And I think one of the things that made Tommy Reese attractive to Nick Saban was that he's a young guy, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to use this, but for the lack of a better term, I'm going to call him a puppet because he's a young guy still
Mm.
trying to find his footing in
Wow.
the game. So Nick Saban can kind of overlook what's going on. Like Nick Saban's going to go back a little bit to his olden age. Like I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
let my defense play.
Sure.
Just don't mess up the game for me. That's all I'm asking. Don't mess up the game for me. And then, as we grow, you can open up the playbook. because you got to remember, until Lane Kiffin came along,
Mm,
there was no spread offense for Alabama. So I think having a young guy that is still trying to find his footing in coaching in college football and
hmm.
expecting this big gig, you can kind of undermine them a little bit and you can mold them into what you want them to be. And I think that's one of the attractive things that, hey, he's not going to leave me for a couple of years. I'm going to mold him the way that I want. And then eventually, maybe he gets a head coaching job, saying that he would. But eventually, because a lot of these guys, you take a look at Steve Sarkisian, you look at
Sure.
Lane Kiffin, these guys are coming in, they're getting better, and then they're leaving. Bill O'Brien, same thing. He came in, he looked good at Alabama, went
Yeah.
back to the New England Patriots, and now that offense through one game has looked tremendous. And that's what I think attracted Tommy Reese the most: the youngness, the ability to mold him the way that you want him, and kind of have control over the offense without having control over the offense.
I agree with you. I never looked at it that way, Zach. I mean, that's a good point there as well. But what I want to ask you, being a fan of Alabama with Tommy Reese here, the SEC has just molded. I mean, of course, Alabama's defense is just so sound, so fundamental, so stacked, arguably one of the best in college every year, of course, under Saban's D. But do you think they maybe went out and got Tommy Reese, where just like you said, he's young, he's moldable, parentheses puppet wise. But do you think they went out and just looked at it, maybe a young quarterback that's innovative to work in the SEC because the SEC is a spread offense now, and Saban, his bugaboo was struggling against top tier spread teams. Do you think that was maybe one of the reasons why he went out and said, you know what, I really struggle with them. Why not go out and get one that could actually call the plays like this? I've heard a lot of things about that. What do you think about that, Zach?
I mean, that's not a bad point right there as well, because if your defense is going up against them every single day, you're going to learn a thing or two and you're going to
Hmm.
be able to get better. What do they say? Iron sharps iron. So
Sure.
I think that's a great point right there. Like I said, if we could have kept Lane Kiffin, that would have been my number one guy to stay as offensive coordinator, because what he helped this Alabama
Yeah.
team do, and
Yes.
really not just open up the offense, but open up Nick Saban's mind to say, hey, it's not a defensive game anymore.
Hmm.
We got to put points on the board, and we don't have to do it in a certain style. We can go out there, bread and butter, throwing deep passes, doesn't matter. Spread them out, four wide receivers deep, slots, whatever you want to do. We can get this all over the field. And I think, that's one of the things that Lane Kiffin did best, was open up Nick Saban's mind to expand his knowledge of the offensive side of the ball and get a more profound offense on that side.
Hmm. And I agree with you about Lane Kiffin. I mean, going from USC to Old Miss, what he does, he hasn't missed a beat. I mean, he runs that spread offense to what he believes, and it doesn't matter, what he does out there. I mean, you go from USC, one of the whole high profile teams, you go to Old Miss, and even watch, even Matt Corral versus Jackson Dart right now. The way he's
Yep.
still he lose one quarterback. Okay, well, I lose Corral, goes to the NFL. I have Jackson Dart here, faster quarterback, great arm. I'm not changing anything, and that's what I remember watching Alabama, where it was just like, goodness gracious, he's going four wide here, he's going trips here, single, twins
Yep.
on this side, twins here, and it was just like insane. And the thing is, what a lot of people don't understand, like Alabama's defense, your offense is going to control the field. They're going to go right down the field, score. It's going to be a short drive, long drive. You never know because he takes what they give you. And with that Alabama defense, it balances itself out so much because the offense is going to be out there for a little bit. The defense comes in, gets a three and out. They put so much time on the offense. Like you have to go out and score fast with that kind of offense with the Nick Saban
Absolutely.
defense. Hmm.
Absolutely. I agree
Yeah.
100%.
Mhm. Now we do have a comment here. We're going to talk about. Eileen has a comment regarding next week, but Maurice Rice says that was a good test for the young QB, Milroy, Alabama. Too early to pull guys in them situations. Saban, not Spurrier. What do you think about that?
So, to be honest with you, if you're pulling a guy, it's not because you don't have the confidence in him. It's because you're trying to provide a spark. I've seen it happen before,
Hmm.
especially in a Nick Saban run team, where you're just trying to get the little spark here, little spark there. With Jalen Hurts, they knew
Very.
how limited he was. They went
Hmm.
into the title game and they're like, hey, if
Tua.
this happens, we're going to put in Tua. So
Hmm.
it's a predetermined plan right there, but it's not like it hasn't been done to provide a spark, and he knew how big that game was against Texas. Not saying that he should have pulled them, but I'm saying I'm surprised that he didn't try, because up until week 1 of the college football season, I'm not counting week 0, week 1, you really didn't know who was going to be that guy. Now, I
Mhm,
had inkling and I thought it was going to be Jalen Milrow, but there was a chance that it could have been the kid from Notre Dame or the
mhm.
backup that we had last year, but ultimately they went with Jalen Milrow. So um, that to me says that they're kind of interchangeable, but Jalen Milrow did enough, especially with the couple of starts he had last year, that it was his job to lose.
I agree. I mean, I was watching Milroy last year, and that one game where he ran for like 150 yards, 2 TDs, and I was like, "Wow, this is a plug and play QB here." Didn't show his arm last year in the game that I watched, but like, wow, what are they going to do here? Then I read the rumors, of course, just like you said. We don't know if Tyler Buckner was. Maybe that was a backup scenario where Saban said, "Hey, you know what? If he doesn't work out, go get a QB that you're familiar with, Tyler Buckner. Bring him in. He can run the system here. We can run that. We don't have the wide receiver U that we had last year and the years prior. We can run the ball. Let's go out and get Buckner." But Milroy has showcased what he can do. I just wanted. I wish he. I hate to say this. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. But I wish he was in here 2 years ago, where it would have been a three-headed dragon: Hurts, Tua, and Milroy. That would have been a competition with the weapons that they have back in the day. Waddle. It's insane what they had. But this year, it's a learning curve for these quarterbacks and Tommy Reese as well.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's a down year or a
Mhm.
rebuilding year, but it's a growing year. That's how we'll manage it. It's a growing year. It's not going to be a national championship year, but definitely a bowl game and a winnable bowl game at the end of the year.
It surprises me that I hear actually an Alabama fan. I know you're a diehard Alabama, say, "I don't think we're making it to the BCS this year in week one, Zach." That really, I have to applaud that because that's something I haven't heard in God. I don't know how many years now since the BCS was initiated. Oh boy.
The biggest thing that hurts my heart is the fact that we weren't able to get one with Bryce Young because I love
Mm.
Jalen Hurts. I love Tua. I actually loved AJ McCarron as well, but
No Greg
Bryce Young
McElroy.
was
No Greg McElroy. No McElroy.
no, no, no. He wasn't my guy. He wasn't my guy, especially when he went to the Jets and everything. He was not my guy. Um, but AJ McCarron was my number one love, and then all of a sudden Jalen stole the show. I loved Jalen,
Mm.
but Bryce Young, calm, cool, collected. If anybody deserved to get a national championship, it should have been him. And my heart aches that we weren't able to get him one before he went on.
I agree. I watch, a lot of Bryce Young. Of course, like since we've been doing the college show, a lot of people ask me, what about Jalen Hurts? I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. You know that, Zach, and it hurts me to see Jalen Hurts into the Eagles. Of course, you're an Eagles fan as well, but it hurts me to go there because we know what he was about. Lost his job to Tua, came back in, sat there, watched it. On the sidelines, whatever you need me to do. Nick, I'm here for you. I'll do whatever it has to do for this team. Leaves. Go plays for Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma. New system, new scheme. Everybody said his arm wasn't the greatest talent. Look what he did at Oklahoma. Went out there, second in Heisman voting, goes to the Eagles second round, has a great year. Everybody talks about his downfalls, his arm not accurate. Look at him now. We know what kind of player he was, a winner. But I see Bryce Young, just like you said, what do they say? Cool as a cucumber in the backfield. Nothing bothers him. Short term memory. A bad play didn't happen. I learned from it. I pushed the right buttons. Next play, here we go. That is one of the things I definitely love about Bryce Young, and it pains me to say that I didn't see him get one as well. Definitely does.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
No, it
It's
really
nice
does,
to
and
see a Notre Dame fan say
that's yeah.
that,
It really
especially
hurt. It
since
hurt
we've
me.
squashed you a couple of years ago.
Zach, a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people do know this. My closest friends. I don't think I've ever told you this, Zach, but the reason why I dislike Alabama so bad is, of course, it was a national championship game, the Manti Te'o, years back then.
Yeah.
Notre Dame minus plus 14 and a half, spread wise. I went down to the game. Tickets were like 1,500. I was blessed enough to go. And the game was I believe it was a Monday night or Tuesday night. I don't even remember because I didn't stay that long, Zach. I went down there and I had like 4 days in my hotel. Next day, I went to the game. Halftime, I left, Zach, and I put a huge bet on. Took Notre Dame plus 14 and a half. Zach, we already know at halftime they were down 24 points, easy. Didn't even score yet. And I left at halftime, and ever since then, I can't say anything about positive about Alabama. So it really pains me to say everything I'm saying tonight, Zach.
My golden rule is never bet on your own team
Very
because
true.
no matter how unbiased you think you are,
Yes.
You start plugging away, especially now that you can do everything right on your phone. Next
Hmm.
thing you know, you're like, oh, yeah, Jalen Hurts, 300 yards passing. Okay, I got that.
Hmm.
A.J. Brown, all right, 100 yards receiving. I got that. And then next thing you know, you're $300 deep. So I always, golden rule, never bet on your own team.
And that's something I do. A lot of people ask me, you don't bet on Notre Dame? I'll play a money line because that's pretty much a guaranteed line, but you never know about the spread. I stay away from Notre Dame. I stay away from Dallas. It's just one of my rules as well. I don't bet on your team because when you bet on your team, you bet from your heart. That's what you bet on. That what your heart does have nothing to do with your pockets. What's in there because you bet with your heart, you're going to end up with lint. That's what you're going to end up with. hundred
Not to
percent.
mention, you lose because they lost, and then your
Yes.
wallet loses. That's a double whammy. You're just like, yeah, this is a miserable week. Let's go to next week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, real quick, there's a couple comments. We'll talk about this one in a second, Zach. Should Alabama? We already know the answer to this. We'll talk about this real quick. Is this a blowout game, and is this a rebound game where we did have Matt Grothe on the show last week, former USC quarterback from the Bulls. He was talking about it. He says, this year they're uprising this year, a good team, of course, not nationally ranked of what they should be, of course, Alabama potential, but should the Bulls be in really like scared this week? What do you think?
I don't think they should be scared because you never go into a game playing scared. You go into a game playing like you're going to win that game.
Sure.
And the main thing that I want to see with Alabama, I don't care what the final score is.
Hmm.
I don't care if it's 60-10 or whatever this
Hmm.
final score may be. I want to see a quick upstart Alabama team. I want to
Hmm.
see them get out early and often. So I don't care if the score indicates that they whooped their ass. I want to see early and often that they were able to present themselves in a championship matter from the opening kickoff. That's what I'm more concerned about is, hey, you lost a game against a big time team that looks to be back in the standings, potential
Hmm.
national championship team. It wasn't as bad as everybody's making it seem, but let's see how you bounce back. You were humbled, you ate some humble pie. Now let's go out there and show what you should have did against Texas, and I want to see it from opening kickoff. That's my most important part is from the beginning. What do I see?
I got you. I agree with that 100%. I mean, well, watching Alabama back in the day, where their first drive they just come out and dictate the game. You're deep. If you don't get the ball, your defense is going to give you a 3-and-out. We're getting the ball, and just watching Tua, Jalen Hurts, whoever they had at QB, just come right down, set the tempo of the game, smash mouth. We're up 7-0. Now this is Alabama football. You're playing Alabama now, but I don't know. I still think it's a learning curve, as we said earlier. I think Tommy Reese is still trying to find that gelling system with Milroy, in this offense here. I really do. I think Alabama should handle convincingly, but I don't know. I definitely agree with you. I want to see what the game flow is and how they dictate the game more than the score itself.
That's the most important part is how do you come out firing? Like
Hmm.
you got humbled. Let's see how you bounce back. I don't care if you bounce back at the second half of the game. I want to see how you bounce back from the opening kickoff. Take it as a real game against real competition because these kids are going to be playing their hearts out and they
Hmm.
know, hey, if we start out slow, maybe there's a chance we can get an upset. You don't want to get that in their mindset. You want
Sure.
to go from opening kickoff. You want to show national media, hey, your darlings that you all hate are back. That's the number one goal is to come out firing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Last thing I want to ask you, Alabama, real quick, is the dynasty over? Has the Bulldogs passed you, Zach? I mean, back to back, have they passed you now?
I mean, not to say that the Bulldogs aren't a dynasty, but it's kind of hard to count out Alabama as a dynasty. It's not like they
Sure.
haven't won that long ago, and it's not like they weren't in the national championship the other year. So, I mean, it depends on how you define dynasty. If you're defining them as, hey, they've made every single
Hmm.
college football playoff since college football playoffs
Yes.
began, except for one, and they probably should have made it last year over TCU. I don't
Hmm.
care that they made it to the national championship game. They were better than TCU. And, that's a dynasty to me. You've made the college football playoffs every single year except for
Hmm.
one.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, I'm more of a what I see on the field, versus what I see in the stat box. Records don't mean anything to me because if they pass my eye test, I'm putting you up there. And I agree with you. I hate to say this, we talked about this last year. We did, a final poll, of course, and when TCU got up there, and I was like, you know what, I don't agree with this. Alabama's knocking on the door there. They deserve the right to be there. That loss, of course. But I just didn't see it because TCU showed me nothing. They got blown away. Of course, they were in a national championship game, but Alabama can stick with Georgia. We know that they know each other in and out. To me, that was the game that I wanted to see. Not saying that they would have made it there, of course, where Alabama was, but who knows? I mean, I would have loved to see that, but I don't know, Zach. I just can't wait till we get to the new stature of the BCS because there's going to be a Cinderella team that's going to get in there, and somehow they're going to show the world what they can do. Going back to Boise State years ago, against Oklahoma, something like that'll happen. But I don't know. I mean, if let me ask you this real quick. I want to ask you this real quick about two things about Tommy Reese. If he loses 2 to 3 games this year, is he on the hot seat for just a 1 year contract and saying bye bye, next man up?
I
Was
mean,
was
that's
when was the
tough.
last time you seen Alabama lose 2 or 3 games? With something like that. I don't know. That's my question to you.
I haven't seen them lose more than 2 games in 10 years
Right.
now, 10
Hmm.
plus years since Nick Saban first came over from LSU.
Hmm.
Um, if they lose 2, 3 games, which I don't think they're going to lose more than 2 games, but if
Hmm.
they do, I think he seriously needs to go in and see what kind of adjustments need to be made. I think he's going to stay with Tommy Reese because, like I said, he is young, he is moldable. So that's somebody that he can have for a while. That's somebody he can have for 2, 3, 4 years. So he wants to see it work out. He wants to see his coaching staff stay intact. Some of the hardest things is you have Steve Sarkisian as your offensive coordinator. You're going into a national title game where he already took the Texas job. So half of his
Mm,
mind's on Texas, half of
right.
his mind's on Georgia. What am I doing here? So things like that. He would like to have the same, star power on his sideline at the same over and over consistency with that staff.
I agree. I'm just going back to that Sarkeesian. We already knew he already had 2 feet out the door. His arm was just in the Alabama locker room. We already knew that. Even going back to which I want to talk about in a second here, Deion Sanders, Jackson State. He already knew he was going to Colorado. He went to the bowl game and it was just like, who cares? I'm leaving anyway. I'm just going to give you my 80% whatever he gave. I'm already leaving. I'm going to Colorado. But the one thing I can say about Tommy Reese, if he actually shows what he can do, he's already set the door for limited. I mean, so many job options. We look at Lane Kiffin, Sarkeesian, Bill O'Brien. Once you're in that tree with Nick Saban, that you can win a national championship, and Nick Saban gives you the stamp of approval, you're going to go somewhere. You're going to get that. I don't want to say a big five, a big powerhouse five, but in a big five conference, you're going to get a head coaching right, a job offer. You're definitely going to get that.
Hey, at this rate, maybe the Nebraska job will open back up for him.
You don't believe in Matt Rule?
I'm not a Matt Rule guy. I don't
Wow.
like him. Not a fan. I think he does a great job at helping the team
Build,
change,
maybe build a little bit, like
build,
build. Yes. Hmm.
but he's not that guy that's going to get you over the hump. Like what he did at Baylor, what he
Yes.
did with Carolina. He's helping
Hmm.
build young guys,
I
but
agree.
he can't get them over the hump. And, that's all right. We need those guys. We need the speed bumps. We need to help the builders. Without Mark Jackson, there would be no Golden State Warriors under Steve
Mm,
Kerr. So we need these
true.
guys to help build.
Wow, I like how you said that. That's very true. A lot of people don't know that about Mark Jackson and the Golden State Warriors, but I do like how you said that he is a builder. I mean, you go from Temple, you built that program up. You couldn't win the big one. You almost beat Notre Dame. I hated to say that. I was at the front row at that game. I remember that. But then you go to Baylor. You turn that team around. You can't get over the top. You can't even win the Big 12 there. You leave there. You go away. You go to Carolina. You build it a little bit to start, uprising a little bit. You can't win. You leave. Now you go to Nebraska. Same situation here. I think he's a builder, but not a person that can get you over the mountain.
I also think Nebraska's in a tough spot where,
Huge.
you're a Power 5 team. You haven't really been good for however many years now.
Hmm.
And let's be honest, do you want to go to Nebraska? Do you want to live in Nebraska and play football in Nebraska? I don't.
Hmm.
Am I going to get NIL deals out in Nebraska? Maybe by like the corn huskers, whoever's husking corn. Hey, I'm going to throw you $100,000 if you come to Nebraska. I know I'm
Hmm.
sounding like a jerk right now, but I'm being honest. I'm being
it's
honest.
it's
Like
true. It's true.
I'm gonna
It's true.
go to where I want to be. Like I want to go to USC. I want to party. I want to hang out. I want to go to Miami with the Miami girls. The old school
Of
Hurricanes, and
course. Of course.
be brought on to the strip club like they used to do back in the day on recruiting. Nobody wants to go to Nebraska. So he's already in a tough spot there. So you got to get the most that you can out of your 3 and 4 stars and maybe an occasional 5 star here and there.
Mhm. Oh, I agree. I mean, you go to a recruiting, trip there, and you get recruited to USC and Miami, places like that, of course, and you go, you have a great time in USC out there. You go to Miami, you go out just like what happens between closed doors goes out, does what he does. You go to Nebraska. We're going to show you the cornfields. This is where most of the people live here. This is our community here. This is the town we have. Well, what are you going to choose? Honestly, I understand that, but Marcus Wright says TCU earned it. I'm not going to take away they didn't earn the right. They had a hell of a season, one hell of a ride. But I look at, I want the best teams in the BCS Final Four. I want to see matchups that go hand in hand. TCU, you know what, Zach? Let me ask you: if TCU played Alabama last year with that team with Bryce Young at the helm, TCU running guns it. Matt Dugan was a hell of a running back, a quarterback. What do you think that score would have been if these two would have matched up? In your opinion, now looking back, Zach?
I'm not going to say Alabama's going to wipe them off the face of the earth last
Mm-hmm.
year, but I do think Alabama would have been able to win that game by 2 scores. It
Mm,
would have been a high scoring game, but I think it would have been somewhere in the range of 30 to 45 or something like that. And I'll
okay.
be honest, this is how I want to put it to you. If Alabama went into the last game of the season in a championship game with one loss, and let's just say they played, and this is not a knock on Kent State. This is just what I can
Mm-hmm.
think of right now. So not a knock on Kansas State, but if they played Florida, which is one of our lesser SEC
Sure.
teams, and they lose to Florida by 3. Do you think they're still making the top 4 if they were in the same situation as TCU, where they lost by 3 to Kansas
Wow.
State?
That's a
Come
great
on,
point. That's a
come
great
on.
point. That's a great point. That is a great point right there. Yes. I love how you said that. That's a great point. Yes. That's why I love having you because, on the show, Zach, we talked about this a long time. And I love, you're a fan first, but you put everything what you see before your fandom, of course. And that's what I do with my team. I always say Notre Dame, to me, they're not even top 10 worthy right now. That's me speaking. They are so overrated every year because the name prestige, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. It's a prestige ranked value, is what Notre Dame is every year. Show me more, through the season. If you beat Ohio State this year, you know what? Arguably, you need to be in the top 6 to me. If you do that, but if you lose, you know what? We're Notre Dame. We are mediocre, name recognition and only. That's just me speaking. But
They got the plus and minuses. So you got the name
sure.
recognition, it's
Hmm.
Notre Dame, but then you don't have a conference. So you don't have that extra game to prove it. So if you're straddling that line of, hey, am I top 6 or am I top 4? And
Hmm.
while everybody else is playing conference championship games and you're
Yes.
just sitting there with a bye week, it's very difficult to showcase how good your team is because like it or not, conference championships does make a huge play
Mm.
into whether you're getting into the Final Four or not.
Oh, I mean, I agree 100%. I mean, you look at SEC, your division there, your conference. You can go in there with being one loss, and you arguably, let's say, if Bama, plays Georgia, even as a two-loss team. Zach, if you're Alabama, two-loss team, you're playing Georgia. The Goliath of college football. You beat them, that turns heads no matter what you do in a conference championship game.
Mhm.
Notre Dame just sits there, like, okay, well, we had an 11-0 season. Okay, we are beat this one team, but eyes do go a long way when you see a conference championship. But before I want to talk about the Colorado game and your vision of that one. But before Zach, I do have one thing about conference alignment. What do you see for the conference alignment going in? Because I know you do your radio show. What do you guys see with the conference alignment here? USC going over, UCLA going over. We have Oregon going over in a couple years, and of course Texas and Oklahoma coming to your conference. What do you see, and how does that play out in your opinion?
So I've been saying this for the last couple of years, and I still think that it's going to happen. It's not going to happen right away. I think eventually college football programs want to separate themselves from the NCAA. And I think
Mm,
this is just a trend of, hey, it's a money grab. We're going to be where the money is. All right, SEC network. We can all get it on ESPN Plus, blah, blah, blah. All
mhm.
right, now look at us. We have Texas. We got this team. We got that team. Show us the money. Eventually, I
Wow.
think they're going to stray away from NCAA. I think that's something that they've talked
Wow.
about before. I think that's something that they would like to ultimately have in their mind is, hey, we got the SEC and we got the Big Ten. All right, let's go ahead and separate because we all know we got all the teams. We
Sure.
don't care about the ACC, who every once in a while they got a Clemson that's very
Hmm.
good, or a North Carolina that's very good, or a Virginia that can be good, but nobody cares about the ACC teams. You get one out of 20,
Sure.
it doesn't really matter. But I think that's the trend. Not saying it's going to happen within 3 years, maybe not even within 5 years, but that's something that down the line I think eventually could happen, especially with this NIL deals and all this other stuff and the
Hmm.
TV networks and like the Longhorns, they have their own entire network.
Sure.
SEC, they got the SEC network. Eventually, these guys are going to want to separate. They're going to be more money hungry. They want the money. They don't want to have to share the profit with the NCAA. And I think that's something that we could look forward to in the future.
Well, I love. I like how you say that. I mean, I've always wondered. I value everybody's opinion. I hear so many people, say this and that. That is a good thing if you think about that, because they want to do separate themselves, because it's become so valued with the money situation. I mean, a lot of people don't understand this, Zach. You know this. Definitely know you know this. Notre Dame was really the first franchise to get the deal with NBC. Notre
Mm,
Dame Saturday, of course. A lot of people ask me, will Notre Dame go to a conference? I don't see them ever going, because they own Saturday with NBC, the Peacock now. That is
yep.
Notre Dame. Their rights to that is so astronomical. The number, it's something that we can't even see. I don't think any team will ever get that kind of deal, honestly, for a showcase on a Saturday. For, I think it's what, 4 more years that they have it. But
Yep.
do you think Notre Dame would ever go to a conference, because they're going to have to share that profit sharing? Notre Dame will not share that profit sharing.
Well, they did it the 1 year with ACC, and then eventually they
Yes.
pulled out. They're like,
Hmm.
there was talks, are they coming back? And they're like, nah, we don't want to share that
Hmm.
money. This is us. We're gonna live off. And for a while, it felt like Notre Dame cared more about marketing themselves than actually
Sure.
winning football games.
I
But
agree.
I'm hoping with the young, talented man that we got at head coach now for Notre Dame, I'm hoping that changes, and I hope that this is a team that if they don't win a national championship, are at least in contention every single year because I love this kid. I love the way that he recruits. I love the way that he connects with his players. I just need to see him grow and be able to put his team in the best situation to win.
Mhm. It's funny. I love Marcus Freeman as well, and it was so funny. I was actually, when I was doing the show Saturday morning, around 9 o'clock, I was doing a little bit of homework on it. I was watching something, Notre Dame Insider, where they had Al Golden talking, and they had quotes from Al Golden to Marcus Freeman. Golden, I'm sorry, said in a quote, guys, his first week there, he told him last year, he's like, guys, make sure we get to class, make sure we do this, stay on top of your homework. We have to do that. Marcus Freeman is next thing to Al Golden. He was like, Al, this is Notre Dame. It's family first. We don't care about anything else. We do school first. That's what we do. Don't worry about all that. And that's something. When was the last time you really heard a head coach say, it's not about football, it's about family, education first? That's why I
Mhm.
love Marcus Freeman, because I bought into his Kool-Aid last year. And you know what, Zach, I'll be the first one to admit it. I wanted to kick his ass out after he lost against Marshall last year. I really did, because I drank the Kool-Aid. I'm like, wow, top three recruiting class coming in, just off name value. Marcus Freeman, of course. Notre Dame isn't what it is before. You have to be, a standout athlete, a standout, administrator, school wise. You have to get in there. He's got
Yep.
the players now. You lose against Marshall. I think I was the first one. I already had my one foot on his butt cheek to get him out of here. But looking at what he does for the program and what he's turning it around to be, I think we can be something in the future, if not this year.
And I agree 100%. That's why I love the fact that they got the kid from Wake Forest as
Hmm.
their quarterback. We keep calling him the doctor because now he's in year 6 of college, but all that experience
Yes.
playing, coming over from Wake Forest, they
Hmm.
got a good veteran that knows how to play, that could have been a Heisman hopeful and
Yes.
still can be a Heisman hopeful, especially with the recognition of Notre Dame. I mean, if you lead that club into a top 4 spot,
Hmm.
there's no doubt in my mind, if you're putting up the numbers, that you should be up there towards the Heisman candidates.
Yeah, a friend of mine actually, he's a Bama fan. He's like, "Man, you guys are so lucky." I was like, "Yeah, we hit the lottery, Sam Hartman. A true veteran in the college football 6 year program. We understand that." He was like, "Man, I wish he would have went to Bama," and I was like, I mean, what would you say about that if Hartman went to Alabama this year instead of Milroy, starting? What would your opinion be of that?"
I think we're on different trajectories. I think Notre Dame
Hmm.
needed Sam
Yes,
Hartman more than Alabama needed Sam
sure.
Hartman.
Mhm.
So that's just my take on that one.
I agree. That's what I told him. I was like, "Look, you have Milroy. He's a fresh. He's a sophomore this year, correct, Zach?
Yeah,
I mean, you saw what he could do last year. Let him go out there because Alabama already has the next best quarterback in 8th grade ready to hop on board. We already know that Notre Dame needed him. Going from Drew Pine, Tommy Rees, Jimmy Clausen back in the day. We've never Ian Book, manageable quarterbacks, but not over the top quarterback. Hartman needed to come here, even though we don't have the weapons. Audric Estime, the running back, is great, but if he can do something, he can put this program back on the map for the next freshman's coming in. But regarding coaches, real quick, Zach, can we talk about Coach Prime here? What is your take on Coach Prime? To me, Deion Sanders. To me, Coach Deion. I don't like the Coach Prime thing. What is your take?
I love Coach Prime, and I'm going to call him Coach Prime because
With all due
what
respect,
is
go ahead.
college football? What is college football? It's a bunch of young kids coming
Mm,
in with all this swagger, playing a game that they love. So who
true.
does Coach Prime connect with? Young kids with a lot of swagger wanting to play the game. And that's
Mm,
exactly why his style, his personality fits perfect for college football. I don't think it would translate to the NFL. Not saying he
sure.
wouldn't be a good NFL coach, but he'd have to change up his style. I
Sure.
think it's perfect for college football. And guess what? The Dion effect is already upon us. We're going into week 3. We're getting
Yes.
3 nationally televised Colorado games for a team that won 1 game last year. They
Yes.
already doubled that, but they only won 1 game last year. Now this is their 3rd national televised game this week. The
Agree.
Dion effect is in full swing.
I agree 100%. I mean, he is a college quarterback, and what better way to initiate college and having Dion? He relates to the players. He has the swag. The one thing that blew my mind when I seen that Game of Thrones chair on the sideline for the defense. That blew my mind, Zach. Where you get a pick, you come sit in the prime time, Game of Thrones chair. The swag is back. But can we talk about Shador Sanders? Did you think he was going to look this good? 550 yards and damn near 400 this last week. Did you think he was going to look this good?
I thought, and he did a little bit, struggle with Nebraska,
Mm-hmm.
bigger, stronger team, more
Sure.
physical. And I think down the road, when these guys get into the heart of their schedule, when they
Yeah.
have to play like an Ohio State and those other teams in
Mm-hmm.
Oregon, I think they are going to struggle a little bit. But against TCU, that was the perfect matchup to open up against because
Sure.
TCU lost a lot of players in the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
They were turning over a new leaf. I think they were overrated going into the season. I know that's easy to say now that Colorado quote unquote upset them, but I was
Mm-hmm.
saying it going into the game like you're a fool if you don't take Colorado, amped up this whole time. And I thought
Great.
it was just a perfect game because TCU has never been a team that's known to play great defense. So you get these young kids that get the spread offense going and they can score a lot. Now, Nebraska, I thought would control the clock, control the
Mm-hmm.
tempo a little more, slow them down. And you saw a lot of that in first half. And then the second half adjustments, they were really able to open up their offense. But I do think the tougher part of their schedule, they will struggle with. So I'm not going to say that they're not real, but I'm going to say let's not fully overhype, hey, this is a top 4 team or anything.
Great.
Do you think they could be a top 25 team and make a good college bowl game, maybe even a New Year's Eve college bowl game?
I agree. I'm going to pump the brakes right now. I mean, what they've done so far to showcase their talents, of course, I agree with that. But I thought the game was going to be a little bit closer at Nebraska. The second half adjustments showed, that what they are a Big 12 team. It's a run and gun team. We don't play a lot of defense, but we're going to score points. If you score more than us, then you deserve to win. But I think once they get to like an Oklahoma or when they play them, I believe they're on the schedule this year. That's going to show me a little bit where they can arguably score as more points as you, of course. So I'm going to wait on there. But Travis Hunter, the number one lottery pick in the transfer portal. Zach, when was the last time we seen a person play like Travis Hunter does with Deion Sanders, offensive deep side of the ball? I mean, touchdowns all the way, a pick every game, basically. I think he's playing 85% of the snaps on both sides of the ball combined. That's insane to me.
Hey, when you got a baller, you got an ace in your sleeve, you're going to use that ace in your sleeve at every opportunity. We also got to remember this kid was the number one recruit
Yes.
coming out of high school,
Hmm.
and he chose to go
Jackson
to an
State.
HBCU
Yeah.
school. So he chose to go to Jackson State. So we all forget about him, but he was the number one recruit. So
Hmm.
what he's doing right now at Colorado against bigger and better opponents is not that surprising to me because he was supposed to be the number one guy, and
Hmm.
he is the number one guy.
Yeah, he's definitely. I mean, looking at Max Prep, St. Joe's Prep. I was always on Max Prep looking, and I remember the name coming out. A lot of people downed him. Why? He can't be that great. He's going to HB, Jackson State, HB University here. Why is he doing that? Well, he's turning heads right now. Just like Dion says, we're keeping receipts. We're definitely keeping receipts on the
Mhm.
naysayers. And you know what? I tell you, Travis Hunter must have a whole stack of receipts, and so is Dion this year. But I'm going to pump the brakes until we play a higher seeded team, of course, because TCU was overrated to me. Dugan's gone. Quentin Johnson's gone from the offense as well. Defense turned over a lot of players as well. So
Yep,
it was the best place to go in there. It was the high scoring offense that you can score on. TCU can score, but we'll wait a couple weeks real quick. We'll wait to my eyes.
absolutely. You take a look. They got obviously Colorado State this week.
Hmm.
Rivalry game. You never know, but this is a
Sure.
game now. After 2 weeks, this is a must-win game. You should win this game because we all think you're a great team. Great teams
Mm.
win games they're supposed to. Then after that, you're at Oregon, and then you're against USC. Those are
Yeah,
the two games that I'm looking forward to.
me too.
I want him
Exactly.
to go 1-1 at least. At least
Mm.
1-1. I want to see him show us something.
That's I love how you said that. A lot of people, they look at, okay, well, you're 3-0 going into the Oregon game here, then you play USC back to back. Yeah, you should go 3-0 to start there. But if you come out of that going 4-1 or 5-0, that is something to me that you've turned my head. Now you pass my eye test, because if you can stand toe to toe with the Oregon team that's been there for years, top 10 team every year, of course. USC, we know what him, Caleb Williams, Heisman Trophy winner. If you can stand toe to toe them, and at least make it a game, either losing one of those games, you get my vote. You get my vote.
Mhm. Even if they're two close losses, because let's
Mm,
be
true,
honest, we didn't expect them to come in this season and just light the world on fire. Through 2 games, we think the world is on fire, but that's
true.
not going to be the case when they get into the heart of their schedule. So even if they lose two close games, I'm still going to be on the Deion Sanders bandwagon
Hmm.
because he's done more for this team in 1 year than
Sure.
Colorado's done in the last 20. So I mean, you got to look at it with perspective. You
Mhm.
don't overhype the first 2 3 weeks, but you're not also going to want to underhype once they lose a game or two. As you just want to see how they played in those games, how much they fought, how close was the game, and actually watch for the eye test. What do
Sure.
they show? There's going to be room for improvement. They need to improve. Let's
Hmm.
see what they do in the first half versus the second half, and that's mainly what I'm looking for. I want to see what they do against stiffer competition.
And that's the one thing too, Zach. When was the last time we seen Colorado have a top recruiting class? I mean, this isn't Cordell Stewart days. Going back that far.
Yeah.
When was the last time they really had a recruiting class? I mean, we know always Alabama, Georgia, even Notre Dame, Florida State. Those top teams, or Ohio State, even Penn State, USC now always has arguably one of the top recruiting class. Now, just imagine Deion Sanders coming into your house, putting his feet on your table, you know, it's Coach Prime. Come on down to Colorado. Let me show you. You want the next step to the pros here? Come play with me. We're putting them back on the map. And did I mention we have the biggest NIL deals here because this is Coach Prime. Everybody wants to be here. Before we used to say Nick Saban does that. I'm Nick Saban, national championships. But now Dion has that swag where kids can relate exactly how you said that in the beginning.
Absolutely. And the thing that I love so much about this year, and like I said, it's only been 2 weeks. Let's not overhype, let's not underhype. But
Hmm.
the fact that he took the transfer portal and used
Oh,
it to his advantage. So
yes.
you get a bunch of kids that said, all right, my coach don't want me anymore. And
Mm,
Dion's like, "Come on over. I'm going to show you some love, and I expect you to play with your blood, sweat, and tears. So I'm
yes.
going to show you some love. You're going to show it back." And that's what he did, and that's how this team has become as good as they are through 2 weeks. And that's why they've already doubled their win totals through 2 weeks. I mean, a lot of it has to do with his two sons and then obviously the
Sure.
number one recruit in the nation, but also to fill those gaps with, 3, 4, 5-star recruits that are looking for a home, that just
Hmm.
want to play ball and now understand, hey, I wasn't able to cut it at Tennessee or Alabama or Ohio
Right.
State, but hey, if I'm given a chance to prove it, I'm going to go out there and ball out because I wasn't able to do that last year.
And it's true. Like 2 weeks ago on the show, we were doing a college football frenzy, and it was a mind blowing stat that I had to actually look up to see if it was real, Zach. As you mentioned, transfer pro, he killed it. He took the players out there. You don't want me? Come on over here. I'm going to give you a shot. You don't earn it? Oh well. Come on over, take a shot. 18 starters out of 22 on both sides of the ball were from the transfer portal. 18 out of 22, Zach. That's insane.
And that's why I love it. He took all these guys and said, I'm going to show you some love, show it back, and you're going to
Hmm.
earn it. And I want you to earn it. So let's go.
And the one thing he does teach is football is family. I did see, I don't know where I seen it, where they were showing something in practice where they were doing 11 on 11 drills, and there was one player that got pushed on the ground and got like stomped on. And Dion just stayed back. And after the play was over, he didn't go after the two players that were in the altercation. He went to everybody else outside the huddle, and he's like, I don't know what the F you guys are doing, but that's your brother over there that's got stomped. You need to get your ass in the huddle, and you need to fight for your player. That's your brother.
Mhm.
He's like, I could care less about a penalty. We're family. You don't let that brother go down while you stand over here looking around. I was like, wow, I can't believe that. That's a different side of family and in football to me that I've never seen before.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Hmm.
And you look around, whether it's NFL or college, some of the best teams, they have a tight knitted locker room.
Sure. Hmm.
Whether you're on offense or defensive side of the ball, if you guys are hanging together well, then you're playing together well.
Agreed. Agreed. But Zach, I really don't even want to talk about games this week. There is no games on this week, honestly. I mean, my team plays the Chippewas of Central Michigan. That's a whatever you want to call that game. You guys are playing the Sister of the Poor this week as well. There's no games. I mean, this week I probably might be doing some yard work for the first time. My grass is, dying from all the Saturdays that I've had off the last 2 weeks. But I don't think there's a game out there that matters this week. Do you see anything? I mean, other than Florida, maybe?
All right, so there's not much that's going to move the needle in terms of, hey, I'm looking for the long run of who's
Hmm.
going to make a national championship game or
Sure.
not. But if you're looking for some good old fashioned fun, and right now I'm looking through where these teams are if you were looking to bet on them. Kansas State versus Missouri, that could be a close game. But
Hmm.
if you're looking for something that could potentially have implications on a bowl game, then what you're really looking for is Florida and Tennessee.
I like
That's
that. I
pretty
like
much
that.
the only game.
I agree. That's the only game that I'm looking at this week. I probably just circle that one. Uh, Now, I do bet a lot, Zach. Before everybody used to say, why do you put so many bets on Facebook? Eileen, she's getting into betting there. Is there a good bet this weekend? Even though let's not say spread. Is there maybe an upset or give me a good bet that's safe and maybe an upset that you see? Last week, I thought Appalachian State was going to beat North Carolina. One hell of a game last week.
And that's a funny thing with Appalachian State. Every time they play North Carolina, it just seems to be
Yes.
a barn burner, which
Yes.
just a real fun game that is just good to watch, even if you don't got any money on it. It's just a
Hmm.
good game to watch.
I agree.
Um, One thing that I wish was better than it actually is going to be is South Carolina and Georgia. I think South Carolina. I love the kid, the quarterback
Spencer.
there. I
Spencer
love
Rattler.
Spencer
Yeah.
Rattler. That offensive line is abysmal,
Hmm.
abysmal.
Yes.
And if you're going against Georgia's defensive front, I don't
Oh,
care how many people they've lost to the draft in the past 3 years, they have a great defensive front. These are grown men playing college football, and they're going to get
agree.
after him. But if he had time, that would be a great game. But unfortunately, that's not
Yeah.
how it's going to go. Um, as far as betting wise, I would say make money where you can make money. Even
Agreed.
if you got to
Agreed.
bet $100 to win $20, that's a
Hmm.
safe bet. $20 is more than you had the other day. That's half a tank of gas. I don't know where you live. Maybe it's a quarter tank of gas where you live because the gas prices are going up. But make money where you can. And, the way that I like to do it is I win my money. So if I put in $100 and let's say I win 50, I be
Yes.
safe. I win 50. I pull out my 100 that I originally put in, and I got 50 bucks house money. So if I want to play a little bit, like,
Hmm.
hey, all right, maybe Boston College will hang in there with Florida State and only lose by 14. All right, I'm going to take them plus 14. That's house money. If I lose that, I'm not afraid to lose it.
I
So
agree with you. I love how you said that because I bet a lot. College football is my favorite time to bet. There's games out there that's very, let's say, profitable if you play it the right way, Zach. We all know that. But I don't like the one thing a lot of people tell me: scared money don't make money. Well, guess what? I don't agree with that because that's stupid to me. Because I don't bet scared. I bet smart. It's
yep,
like if I have to bet $50 to make $5, I'm going to do it because it's $5 more than I have in the beginning. That's what I do. I take that money, just like you said. When I win something, I have all these checks over here, Zach. All these are actually. Here, I'll show you. I didn't put them on. I have like 13 DraftKings checks this month already from DraftKings. I haven't sent in a check to my house because once I get done with my kitty money, I don't bet anymore. So all
yep,
that's house money right there. So that's what I usually do all the time. I just let it ride, let it ride. But when you win something, it becomes house money. That's what I do. Eileen, I'll talk to you. I think there's a couple good bets out there, but you got to look at the lines too. A lot of people don't look like how they play this team. We all know how this team plays, but when you go matchup wise, one team like Iowa, last year when they played home, I usually take Iowa at home because that defense is ferocious at home. A lot of people just say, "Oh, Iowa this or that." You have to
yep.
look who their matchups, where they're playing, and how they match up scheme wise versus teams. But Zach, I one thing before we get out of here, you got about 5 more, 10, maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, I got some
All
time for you.
right, we'll do like 5 minutes here. Give me your Heisman. Give me two candidates that you think can win the Heisman this year.
Do I have to give you more than one? Because right now it's Caleb World's and we're just living in it. It's Caleb Williams'
Wow.
world and we're just living in it.
Wow.
When you say it's his to lose, that's like putting him
Mm.
up on the Heisman Trophy case and saying, "Hey, unless somebody knocks into you and you fall off that case, you should be winning the Heisman Trophy without a doubt." Now, there are
Mm.
some other guys that I like.
Wow.
One of my favorite guys that I've always liked going back to Indiana is Michael Penix Jr.
Mm.
And I love
Washington.
what he's doing with
Washington.
Washington. He's
Yes.
finally fully healthy. He's
Yes.
finally with a team that plays offense, not like
Yes.
he did in Indiana, where it's like, we don't know what offense is just quite yet. I love
Hmm.
what he's doing in Washington. Um, I'm not a big guy that, honestly, Heisman is usually a QB driven trophy, but
Hmm.
if you want to try to make some money off of it, maybe you look at Blake Corum for Michigan.
Mm.
Um, Marvin Harrison Jr. for Ohio State. But other than that, your quarterbacks are going to be Caleb Williams Jr. or Caleb Williams, Drake May, and then Michael Penix Jr. Those are the top three right now in my mind as far as Heisman. Now, there's still a long way to go, but I'm still
Sure.
saying it's Caleb Williams to lose. If we are going wire to wire, that is the guy that I expect to go from week one all the way to the finishing touches right up to that Heisman Trophy.
I like how you said that. I mean, a lot of people look at it. I think we're going to look on DraftKings next week. The Zach Harris prop bet. It's going to be Caleb Williams versus the world here. Take Caleb Williams versus the field.
Yep.
I agree with you. I love Michael Penix. I mean, going from the Hoosiers. I'm a huge Indiana basketball fan. I do watch a lot of Indiana Hoosiers football. Michael Penix, finally, he's in a scheme where it's Michael, go out, that left-handed QB, go out and throw the ball wherever you want to throw it. Air raid here. This is what you're about. Last year, putting up almost 5,000 yards. This year, insane game as well. I mean, he's already averaging like 350, 400 yards a game this year. I think it's those two, but I think it comes down to, I tell you this, I think if Utah somehow beats USC somehow or they lose a game, I think Caleb Williams can get knocked down from the Heisman voting a little bit for the next guy, maybe Penix. But I agree with you. Heisman Trophy winner is a QB. I agree 100%. Blake Corum, Marvin Harrison in the Big Ten, the Michigan, Ohio State. they're going to have one hell of a resume to put together to knock off one of these QBs. It's a QB award.
And if you got $5 and you want a dark horse, my
Sure.
dark horse right now is Tyler Van Dyke because I had big
Really?
expectations for him last year. They brought over the head coach from Oregon. I thought that was going to perfectly fit him. Obviously, things didn't go very well last year. He ended up getting benched the one game, and
Hmm.
now he's back in the starting position. You can see all the talent, all the traits are there, not only to be a great college football player but potentially being a day 2 NFL draft.
Hmm.
So I think if you're looking for a guy just to throw $5 on, hey, maybe I get $1,000 off of this.
Sure.
I don't know what the line may look like, but Tyler Van Dyke is a guy that I would look at. Unfortunately, in New York State, there are definitely things we can't bet on, and one of those is players winning trophies. So we can't bet for MVPs, we can't bet
Wow.
for comeback player of the year. We can't bet any of that stuff, and we can't bet New York sports. So I can't go out there and bet for Syracuse or St. John's. I can't bet for any of these guys because they're a New
Oh,
York State college.
I never knew that. I never knew that. I usually use Caesar's, sportsbook and a DraftKings as well. I never knew that. That's insane. I never knew that. Wow. Jeez. But Zach, before we get out of
I
here,
don't
I
even
want
think
to
I could bet the Gatorade. Come on.
right, right. But Zach, give me your top 4 teams this year in the BCS. I know it's only week 3 here. I'd love to hear yours. Give me no 1 through 4. Just give me your 4 teams. No category where they belong, but give me your 4 teams where you're going to see this year coming up.
All right, so man, you really put me on the spot here.
I know I
Can you
didn't
give me a
prepare you for
second
this.
to think about it? You go
You know what?
first, and then I want to give
How
you
about we
mine.
do this? How about we do this? I'm going to give you a couple seconds. We're going to go over our sponsors real quick. So I'm going to give you about maybe a minute and a half to think about that, Zach. Okay.
All right, you got
All
it.
right, I'll be back in a minute and a half. We're still on here, but guys, listen, if you're looking for the Ultimate Game Day mug, reach out to my boys at dugoutmugs.com. Make sure you use promo code OOTBSports20 at the checkout. Once again, dugoutmugs.com, OOTBSports20 for 20% off your mugs, whatever you want, custom made. I just ordered an out of the box sports entertainment mug, so reach out to them. Dugoutmugs.com, OOTB Sports 20 at the registers. Also, if you're in need for any legal help, please give my friend a call. Jason Fine, attorney Big Al, 1-800-HURT-123, motor vehicle accident, slip and fall, workman's comp, personal injury claims, 3 convenient offices, 1 in Philadelphia, Cherry Hill, and I actually control the Pittsburgh office here where I'm at. So once again, if you're in need of a lawyer, please reach out to 1-800-HURT-123 and make sure you tell them that Out of the Box Sports Entertainment sent you. Last but not least, if you're a coffee drinker, the evolution of flavor infused coffee is here. MonkeyColdCoffee.com. Make sure you use promo code OTB Sports at the register for 10% off your entire order. 3 great blends, coffee blends, Samaritan blend, toasted coconut rum, and bourbon chocolate chip. 3 great coffee out there. So make sure you get it for your all mornings. I drink usually about a bag a week. So let's see if we gave Zach enough time to come up with this BCS Final Four here. According to Zach Harris from Fox Sports 980, here it is, guys, the moment we were waiting for, the
All
BCS
right.
top 4.
The reason it was so difficult is because there's 6 teams that I really like, but I'm gonna
Ooh,
go
ooh. You know what?
unorthodox
You
here.
can give me outside of the bubble teams just in case. Okay.
All right. So obviously you got Georgia.
Okay.
I like Michigan. I think they're going to beat Ohio State again later this
Wow.
year. Florida State, I like. I think they have some troubles, so that might
Mm-hmm.
be my outside team. Texas, I want to buy into the hype. And one of the things that gets you when you beat Alabama is you jump right up in that rankings. I like
Sure do.
Texas. They have a Heisman candidate there that we didn't talk about either. Quinn Ewers, he could be a Heisman candidate. And then USC, and then it comes down to Ohio State. If Ohio State beats Michigan, you knock Michigan out. If Michigan beats Ohio State,
Okay.
drops them out. But other than that, maybe Notre Dame sneaks in. I would put them at like 7 or 8, in that range. And I'm not just saying that because you invited me on the show. I do love the veteran quarterback. I think that's going to really help bring that team together. I would have loved to see them with the tight end that they had last year.
Oh,
I
Michael
absolutely
Mayer.
love
Yes.
Mayer.
Michael Mayer.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I wish he was there this year because they would just be balling out on
Mm.
everybody. But yeah, those are the couple of teams that I'm keeping my eye on.
Okay.
Other than that, I think Washington's going to lose one of those high shootout games against an Oregon or something like that,
Agree. Agree.
Oregon State. They always seem to have trouble with Oregon State, so that's why it's going to knock them out. But it's Georgia, Michigan, Texas, Florida State, Ohio State, and then USC. And it all subjects to who plays who beats who.
Mm. I agree with you. I consensus number one to me is court Georgia. I think they have, even if they lose one game in the SEC, I think there's still rights to be there. I really do, especially playing in that conference. Number one. Regarding the Big Ten, it kind of scares me because I have three teams there, but I don't know who's coming out. Honestly, I haven't seen too much of Penn State of what they can be, glimpses of what they are, but what they can be later on in the season. Because Michigan and Ohio State juggernauts as well. I think that's a three-headed team right there. That one of those teams will come out. I'm definitely going to put one in there. Florida State scares me. I love their receiver Johnny Wilson. I mean, 6'6" guy is just insane. I think I'm going to bleed into it a little bit because they beat LSU. I think I'm drinking the Kool-Aid there a little bit, Zach. I want to put them outside the door looking in,
That's
but
fine.
I'm probably going to go USC, Georgia. If you pull my arm, I'm going to have to go. I don't believe in Kyle McCord. He didn't St. Joe's prep kid. I don't believe in him. I don't believe there. I'm going to go Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that fourth team scares me, man. I'm going to go Texas right now. I'm believing the hype as well. I love Ewers. I love how he's performing. And they're living on a cloud nine right now, beating Alabama week one. So it's all on them. They control their own destiny right now, being that high.
Absolutely. And the reason that I didn't put Penn State even on my outside looking in is because James Franklin's got to show me something. Until he shows me that he can win the big game, I can't put him in there. I just can't do it. I've been burned by Penn State so many times that just me personally, I'm not buying in until he shows me that I should have bought in.
I agree with you. I'm not a big Penn State fan. A lot of the people, the hosts on our show, on our network here, are Penn State fans, of course. Bill Furman, my co-host, is a Penn State love. We're actually having Bill Conlon, the goon, hop on in a
Yep.
couple of weeks. So we're having him hop on, and it's Penn State, Penn State. But I always ask people, we don't call him Big Game James yet. He's like, no, nobody calls him that because he hasn't won that, marquee,
Yep.
big
Absolutely.
game so far. But Zach, before we get out of here, I appreciate you hopping on here. Where can everybody find you at, Zach?
So you can find me on Twitter at ZachFS980. I'm not a big social media guy. I got a 4-year-old. I like to spend time with her. I'm not a social media guy, but I do post all my podcasts. So you download iHeartRadio. That's our number one go-to. But basically, any podcast platform, just search Zach Harris Sports. Looks like my signature as the logo. Give it a listen. Appreciate it. And if you guys like to bet out there, sorry, I don't mean to cut in, but use code WOFX on DraftKings.com. Bet that $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets.
Well, I think I'm going to have to make a different account here under a different email and use that promo code. Now, Zach, are you
Thank
still
you.
doing Friday night tailgates? Are you still doing that?
So right now I'm kind of jumping through. I got a couple of different projects in the work.
Okay.
Hoping to do some college basketball coming up, some local college basketball. Right now I'm doing a show with a couple of the weekday guys Sundays at 11 a.m. from 11 to 1. We're
Mm-hmm.
down at the Rivers Casino in Schenectady, and we're doing a live football show. So there's a couple of things in the works outside of that, but right now I'm working with the two goons over there, and we're having a fun time doing it.
Sounds good. That's what's first and foremost. You're a fan of the game. We love all sports, and it's great hearing people's opinion. We're all opinionated, but it's good to hear outside voices telling you what they see, what they feel. It's what sports are all about, Zach.
Absolutely. And hey, if you need somebody to not talk too much trash about Cowboys, let me know. I'll be happy to hop on because I defended their wide receiver group
All
quite
right.
a few times already.
Well, you know what, my team does your play team twice this year. So we'll definitely collab one of those 2 weeks there. Zach, and we'll definitely have some fun regarding that.
Thank you, and I appreciate you having me on. It was a pleasure doing this, and
Appreciate it.
I've been listening to you guys, and you guys all just have a nice, fun atmosphere. It looks like you guys are always enjoying each other's company, whether you're talking trash to each other or spitting some knowledge. It's just a fun atmosphere, so I
Well, you know
appreciate
what,
what
Zach?
you guys do.
Let me know if when you're available on a Thursday night at 7 p.m. We do have one of our shows coming up tomorrow night. It's NFC East Roundtable, where 4 hosts, 4 teams, one show. What can go wrong when you talk about the NFC East? And you know,
The good old round table
A
right
good old round
there.
table, yeah. Sometimes it's more of like a boxing ring, but we have fun with it, But all right, guys,
Uh,
Zach, you ready to get out of here?
Absolutely. I appreciate the invite, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Definitely. For myself, Paul Spencer, and of course, the amazing Zach Harris. Please check him out. Fox Sports 980 AM. Also, I'll put the links up there where you can find Zach. Please reach out to him. Great friend, great knowledgeable, host on anything, the platforms that he always does. So for myself, we're out of here, and we'll be back next week, same time, 8 p.m. College Football Frenzy. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody.